So, good afternoon. We are in Mental Health Awareness Week. My name is Aneesh de Vos, and as ever, I have the amazing and lovely and ponderful, I'm going to make that a word, David, ponderful David Buck.
Wonderful.
We're going to go with that. You've got boom on in there, Aneesh, and that
Yeah.
ponderful David Butler. And whether it's a word or not, we're going with it today. So, David, it's Mental Health Awareness Week, and I just want to cast people's minds back to when we first set out on these chats that we have. Back to, I think it was Friday, the 10th of April, and
Yeah.
I've jotted it down. And what we discussed was, I'm trying to be how it was, but it ain't the same. And that was
Yeah.
the start of this.
Off the cuff remark that I can remember well.
Yeah, a very off the cuff remark. And as ever, old Ninja Anish is like, and that will
On
make
it.
a really good chat.
Yeah, made it something. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Just to say that some of those videos recordings have been taken down because it's just something that we needed to adjust on them.
Re-edit. Yeah.
To re-edit, you're quite right, David, to re-edit. But in the main, these are always
Yeah, my makeup artist had a day off.
And I'm really sorry about the glaring light. It's kind of
You look bright. Like there's a beam of light shining upon you.
What can I say? I think it's actually, to be more pragmatic, it's actually just that it's kind of 6:15 and I live in a very sunny street, and my house is for the terms of the sun, the right side of the street in terms of the sun. So we get a lot
Well,
of light.
I'm staring at blinds, and sometimes it looks like I'm looking through prison bars, but that's okay.
That's okay, you feel comfortable there. And that's also in the future. We've got some talks coming up, and we've also got a talk coming up with a very lovely person. I'm not going to mention the names now, but that is in the justice system and working in there and just doing some amazing work. So I am incredibly excited to be thinking about talking to that very person. So we're always quite busy, aren't we, David? Kind of thinking, yeah, what do we need to talk about next?
Yeah.
Still very welcome for you to say, do you know what, I'd like you to talk about such and such. And indeed, if anybody wants to have a chat, then please contact us at Community Connections, and the email is down below.
Yeah, sure.
Because we would love to have you on. So David, let's kind of go back to that then. It's Mental Health
What
Week.
I said.
Yeah, what you said. And there's this strapline going around at the moment that, we're promoting in Mental Health Week.
Yeah.
Kindness. I am, as my little strapline says, tad arsy. I'm not political in that sense. I'm just actually a compassionate human. So I can be deemed as political at times, but in actual fact, what I am always wanting is this massive amount of compassion to come into things. And I think that if we're going to start talking about kindness, I think that I think you have to be careful with kindness, because sometimes we can kill with kindness. And I think sometimes what we perceive as kind is maybe not right for that person. But I really, really believe that if this pandemic has shown anything, it has shown that there is a basic need. When you look at, I won't go too into academic stuff, but when you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the first couple are the physiological and the safety. Then you can get to love and belonging. Then you can get to esteem, and then to self-actualization, which I can't say very well. But actual fact, for the past 6 weeks, what we've been dealing with is the physiological and our safety, because we've not felt saved, and it's really highlighted the fact that in actual fact the systems, and this is not just in the UK, how if the systems weren't already providing that level of safety and that physiological safety as well, i.e., when you look at developing world, have you actually got anywhere to live? Or when when I walk around the streets of my very tiny city, how many people are homeless? And the government is now saying, right, homeless people, you can get out of the hotels. And I know that's a political statement, but hang on a cherry picking minute. Where's the kindness? So how can we push this system of kindness by saying to everybody, yeah, really get the kindness going, when the very nature and fabric of our systems are not being kind? You know, we need a universal basic income. We need to make sure that people have places to live. We need to look at the trauma surrounding the reason that the people haven't got places to live. When you look at the majority of people who are in a homeless situation, you can bet your bottom dollar you're going to go back to trauma there. So
Yeah.
I mean, literally, I could really spout on this one. I can go to the war on drugs and everything. You know, that the majority of people that are in addiction are traumatized, and you stick a war on drugs on them. I'm very arsy today, David. I'm going to let you go because I really could just kind of spin, and I actually want something productive to come out of my arsiness today.
And a good job you're doing too.
You are lovely to me, and you put up with a lot.
Yeah, I've been around a long time. Mellow.
Thank you.
Yeah,
the wisdom of David on arsy Aneesh.
Yeah, the one thing that's COVID has exposed is the very thing that you're talking about. Is, you know, we see this now. We see how unjust the plight of a whole range of people has been highlighted. And could we ever treat them the same way again? You know, I don't think so. We will. What's happening now is that we're actually respecting, admiring, and in many ways dependent upon the people who are at the bottom of the pile economically, if you will, and society. And these heroes have been out there on the front line working for what they're... I've been a carer. I know what the pay is like. I know what the conditions are like. I've been a support worker, not much better then, okay, more highly trained, but the money didn't get there. And unless, let's politicize it, unless there's a massive injection of cash into social care, we're going to be in the same place. And hopefully the whole situation we're in now has shone a very much welcome and long-awaited spotlight on those jobs, those professions, and it needs it. It really needs it.
And can I also bring in? Sorry, David. Can I also bring in?
No.
I'd like to bring the teachers in. What the hell? The schools didn't close. They stayed open for the key workers' children and for kids that are at home that are vulnerable and at risk and need the safety and sanctuary of school. So what government turns around and says, stop squabbling? Squabbling? Hey, one thing, they are not healthcare workers, they are teachers. And two, I don't know about you, find me a child that is not going to rub its hand on its nose, etc. What could you possibly say that a child, a little teeny reception class, what the hell can they learn in the next 6 weeks in any case? And the year 6, I get they're transitioning to high school. How can they can't, it's not like they can go and give a visit. I have never known, and I come from, you know, my granny was a headmistress. You know, I'm a little bit passionate. I have taught in other countries myself, and some of my closest friends are teachers, as some of my closest friends are nurses and doctors. And yes, like you, I've been in as a care worker, etc. Get your head out of the very dark place it seems to be in government at the moment. Stop this nonsense and actually look at the people. And so if you want to, you know, spout out about kindness, put it in the policies that you are making. I've said it. With my usual smile, like a little smack and a little grin.
Yeah, of course, you know, we're including a lot of other people in this. Our supermarkets have had to remain open. Delivery
refuse collectors,
refuse collectors,
bank clerks.
And I'm going to miss someone out here, and at the risk of annoying them, I mean, those people have been absolute heroes. They've been a godsend.
Yeah.
And where would we be?
Pizza delivery guys, gee, they don't get paid much in any case, but they come to the door and leave your pizza there. You see, my daughter loves pizza, but do you know what I mean? This is, you know,
yeah.
what?
Yeah. And I was talking about that, you know, what's going to be normal? I hope it's not the normal we had before. I guess that's what we're talking about.
And are we galvanized enough? Are we shocked enough to say, hang on a minute, whilst I was dealing with my physiological safety and my sense of just trying to belong in something that, as you said, I'm trying to be how it was, but it ain't the same. So we've kind of found some sort of belonging now, but we're being asked to go back out. But in actual fact, sorry, not until Wednesday, or, you know, just the rigmarole of that. And I mean, because I'm not in government, I get that's a tough job. I get that's a tough job. But how can it be right when an MP, do they get £50 for their breakfast? And yet these very people who are caring for us so that I can sit in here and be comfortable and still do my work, they are caring for us to keep that system going. And using food banks, come on. Over to you, David, because I'm literally on a rant.
No, you were, you know, but it all makes sense. I froze there for a minute. Again, I've become unstable.
I love the fact that you're unstable. I never know whether you're being ponderful or if the connection's bad. I'm like,
unstable. Yeah. I've been thinking about this a lot. This, what are we going back to? And it's been, you know, a fundamental worry of a lot of people I've been speaking to the last few weeks, and it's been, well, yeah, the next step is vague, and it gets clouded every time you switch on someone making some statements, usually from government. The science says this, and the economists say that. But the address finishes and you sit there and what did I take away from that? And there was no decision. It's almost like reading between the lines. And I think it's at the end of it all, it's the uncertainty.
So, and that is, as always, David, you always bring a beautiful lead in. How do we work with that uncertainty, David? You know, what are your views? Because whilst we've been a little bit ranty today, and, you know, I clearly use this as a bit of a platform, so apologies to people that are watching it, but, you know, I just really think that, actual fact, this is our job. This is what we do. We do work with people that have experienced trauma. And I know, for one, that this is changing, because I know in my interactions with working with people as I am at the moment, and I'm sure you do, David, that the conversation is very, very different now. And it's also the same for us as well, because we're in the trauma too, you know.
We're in it,
just because we've got this training, it doesn't mean that somehow you're like, I mean, I know I've got the glowing light today, but in actual fact, I have the same fears as everybody else.
And you know, I bear in mind what was said to me very early on in my training, that I'm a human being first. You know, I'm a counsellor second, and I guess I question myself a lot. You know, it's like I always had to be a counsellor, but, you know, I live in the world with everybody else.
Yes.
And I have the same fundamental needs, and I have the same worries, I have the same concerns, the same fears for myself and for my family.
Yeah.
And it is the uncertainty that adds that. It puts another level of anxiousness on top of that.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm getting, that's what I'm receiving. And we did go through quite a few things in the very first video about, you know, tensions in the house, and what's it like for people who, you know, have generations living under one roof, you know, from tots up to grandparents.
Yeah.
people living in very small dwellings, you know, almost in 1 or 2 rooms in some instances. What is that like? What is that like? I am so privileged. I'm so grateful, and that's how I feel. And you know, it's almost like I want to share some hope. You know, I want to be able to say to people, it will be different. It'll be much better. We will care more. We'll be more compassionate. And it's hope. It's a great thing, hope. But it's almost seems to be dashed sometimes by this, I don't know, by society we live in, how it was driven, how it was put together, who are the winners, who are the losers.
And it is that kind of polar opposites, isn't it? And I get a bit antsy about polar opposites, because I genuinely believe that polar opposites are literally the same habits, just a different view in terms of what their belief is, but they're doing the same thing. And I'm just hoping that, and again, I'm hoping that we can come in the middle. That sometimes you're gonna have to say, do you know what, I don't overly agree with you, and that's okay. So where can we find a middle ground? And so what I really want to happen is that middle ground. I think us locked into our homes, we've had to find middle ground to cope with the fact that we can't just say, oh, you know, bog off, I'm off down the pub, or I'm off, like me, I'm off for my green tea somewhere. So we've had to kind of go, oh, okay, so we actually have to find that middle ground. So I just wonder if that part of us that has found that middle ground in a lot of places and a lot of spaces in our interactions together, is that not the change that we needed?
Yeah, and I only hope that there is that coming together. You know, I don't
mind if the government literally sits there and says, do you know what, we're a little bit lost at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, then I'd be out on my doorstep and I'd be clapping them, because I think we need some truth and honesty about this.
Yeah.
We've got lots of different facts and figures. We're kind of going along, but we're all in this together.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be lovely? I mean, a unicorn has literally just sailed by, but
you're hardly likely to see someone lean across a podium and say, I'm frightened to death and I haven't got a clue. You know, it's a bit of authenticity somewhere along the way. You know,
I'm a lover of authenticity. Lover of authenticity. Very good book about authenticity by Professor Stephen Joseph. A book that I recommend to many of my clients, and they read it and they're like, oh right, I get that. It's a very good book. I don't know if you've read it, David.
I haven't, but you know, I do have a couple of Professor Joseph books on my shelf, one of which is What Doesn't Kill Us, and that's another good read that I recommend. Yeah, but you know, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, is that what I'm seeing in front of me on a TV screen, who are our leaders in inverted commas, it's not very authentic, is it?
No, and
get that feeling.
No, and I don't want to say, oh, I am bashing the government. What I'm saying is what I always love to do is like open a dialogue and have a conversation. You know, I literally sit there sometimes and I think, and I do feel a compassion for them, because I think, what does it take to keep squashing down that fear or that concern or something that, like, you know, because when you're authentic, that's the more truthful to you version of yourself, the more that gut feeling. There I am, somatic therapist as usual, but that gut feeling of, does that feel right? What just came out of my mouth? Does that feel right? And I do sometimes look at them and think, I'd love to talk to you and say, seriously, did that feel right that you said that?
I guess my take on it is, whose best interests do you have in mind when you're saying these things? You know,
yeah.
And when we look at what our system is based upon, it makes you wonder. You know, I mean, we don't need very hedge fund managers at the moment, do we?
No, we need our lovely refuse collectors, and I think I said bin men earlier. You know, I'm a 70s, child. I was born in '69, so I do apologise. But you know, we need our refuse collectors. We need our post people. You know, we need our delivery guys. Which for me, that is a generalisation of girls, people, men. So apologies if my language is a bit over. I was in a meeting this morning talking about that. So, no, we don't need our hedge fund. And you know what we don't need to do? We don't need to go back to the collapse in 2008 and bail out the banks. We need to support the people. Oh, I've gone even a little bit deeper in that political stuff there, David. On it today. But I think that we do. And again, I just have this concept. Let's learn from what we've done.
Yeah.
Let's learn from what we've done before. Let's do that compassionately, recognize that we are all in this together. And that does mean people sat in government. As much as we're saying, well, we will be fearful, so will they. And like you said, wouldn't it be great if they said, do you know what? Yeah, I'm actually feeling quite scared today. I'd just like to get out there. Like Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand. I mean, I literally just adore this woman. And I can never remember the guy, the leader in Northern Ireland, Southern Ireland, sorry, Irish Republic. My daughter will be banging on the door because she's a politics major. He really has a lovely way in how he's speaking to people. I just think it's about sometimes, as you say, being authentic, being real. I think we kind of talked about that before, didn't we? About model it to your kids. Do you know what? Actually, I'm a bit scared at the moment because it's actually okay to be scared. We have no blueprint in our memories for this because the last massive world pandemic was in 2018. We don't have many people who are, even Captain Tom was not alive in 2018.
I'm guessing you mean 1918.
Absolutely. See, there we go. End of the day, folks. So, we haven't got this as well, I remember when that happened before. We haven't got that. So we haven't got a blueprint for this at this moment in time.
Yeah, and it's interesting what's coming to light on both sides of the Atlantic now is the very committees that were put together to face this. Will cut to the bone and even disbanded in some cases.
And why was that in the UK? We've got our austerity measures. We've just nipped back to 2008 there, David, because we've got our austerity measures. David, earlier you spoke of hope.
Yes, I did. It's always there.
Always there. And do you not think that hope is, along with my lovely friend compassion, is what keeps us going in our emotional sense as a species? I'm not talking about this biological at the moment, but that hope of some sort of cohesion, of some sort of attachment, of some sort of, we don't want the tea and sympathy, but we do want can we raise our voices? Can we say, do you know what? In actual fact, it's time to do it differently. Because it ain't going to be the same.
It's I guess you describe that coming together, that those opposite poles coming together. It's not going to be easy, and it's something that can't be done as an individual.
No.
You know, how can we make all the voices heard at the same time? You know, do we have to go to the extremes of creating another party, or it's difficult to say, but yeah, I have a gut feeling here that I've been so changed by this whole thing, and I guess a lot of people have been, that we can't go on. It's not possible to go on the way we were going along. Something has to give. You know, even the planet is changing. It's getting better. It's healing.
It's healing because we've stopped being busy.
We've stopped being the way we were. Yeah, I mean, that's got to tell you something.
It literally makes my soul sing to think that the planet has really been able to take a breather from what we have done to it.
Yeah.
And because we have, I've got my air miles. We have. But at what cost?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back to my old friend, the gift in barbed wire.
Yeah.
There has been a gift in barbed wire with this in different
and I think
ways.
what we've done here, you know, we've brought up so many different facets of what's going on that they create their own discussion. Yeah. And I feel like we've just been on a whirlwind of what's going on. And I've just wanted to pause every say, hang on, this is another discussion. But no, I a lot came out and a lot will come off the back of it, I guess. Yeah.
Well, certainly next week we have a recording with the amazing Professor Tim O'Riordan and David. You have seen that recording.
Yeah.
What was it you said?
Amazing.
That it was amazing. And so, you know, guys, watch next week because I mean, I was quite tearful in some parts of it. Quite an emotional person, quite proudly so. David, I just want to ask you, because it was just something that you had spoken to me about because I know you get a tad arsy about social media.
Yes, I do.
You know where I'm going with
around
this.
Mental Health Week.
I'm going to let you go with it, and I'm going to shut up.
I hope not. No, I just see so many posts, and you know what hits me is there is so much involved in regard to. Well, let's rewind a little bit. There are so many charities involved in this week who are promoting, if you like. Can you promote Mental Health Week? I don't know. Anyway, you highlight it and we give it more attention, if you will. But what is significant is there wouldn't be any need for charities if things were the way they ought to be, if the way they need to be. The NHS was never put together the way it functions today. We went there when we were ill. Yeah. Now it's asked to do many other things. Amongst those, take care of mental ill health, to correct memes that are all over the place. You know, we all have mental health. Some of us have better mental health than others. Yeah. So, yeah, that comes back to a couple of memes I've seen this week. There's nothing to be ashamed of mental health. You know, okay, that doesn't make a great deal of sense to me, but I get what they're trying to say, obviously. Maybe that's nitpicking, being rather pedantic. But what I'm coming back to is we have charities plugged in all over the place, which just take the onus away from NHS, governments, and they've arisen because there's been a need, because there's this huge hole. And whilst they do fantastic, wonderful work in their own right,
Yeah.
I
proudly work for one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so have I on numerous occasions.
Yeah.
But in an ideal world, we should have a separate body, if you like, attached to the NHS or not, but a body to take care of, particularly when we talk about social care. It should be a government department in itself.
Yeah, and I always worry that when a new government comes in, as we see, I don't think that education and health are something that each government should keep changing. They are their own body. And whilst I believe we should finance them, but I'm not sure why it has to be a Tory or a Labour or whatever rerunning. Because if you had a business model, you wouldn't every 4 to 5 years change that business model.
No, correct.
You wouldn't. It wouldn't be successful.
No.
I'm a businesswoman as well. That would not work as a successful model.
And if it was an organisation for good, I don't know. It should be less greed orientated. It should be less driven by what you can take from it. By its very nature, be set up to help.
As charities are, and as Nye Bevan thought it should be at the beginning. Let's not forget old Nye Bevan. Definitely not.
Wonderful man. Yeah. And look, we've come a long way since then, but I sometimes think in the wrong direction.
Yes, because as amazing as Tom was to raise, was it 32 million?
33 now. Yeah.
33 million.
Tom, yeah.
I love the fact that he did that, but there is part of me that says it's the NHS. It's not a charity. And I love the fact that he's done that. Absolutely, I do. And I gave money to it. Absolutely. Because I wanted to support that guy for what he was doing. And in a way, what he has done, whether he meant to or not, has made that political, because people are saying, hang on a minute. Absolutely give to it and support that guy because he was amazing.
Yeah.
But hang on a minute. And I think, so maybe what we've done is, because we've had this period of this, when we were talking in our perfectionism recording last week, and we spoke about this period of self-reflection, of coming back into ourselves. So maybe we're going to come out of here with very different questions, because we are changed by it. We are.
Yeah. And I think, the conclusion to this would be the spotlight, if you like, that's been shone upon what is wrong. Yeah.
Yes. And it's a shame that something has to crash so hard. But that's also somewhere in there, that's kind of very human nature, isn't it? Things do have to crash, because we do want to go in that, it's like a level of status quo, isn't it? It's just like, well, it's not quite broken, so we can carry on, because as humans, we don't want massive change. Look at how change has affected us. It has impacted us. It has. So we do accept a certain level, but I think they are such gaping wounds now of our society that we are changed from that. We need to look at that. Why so many people from immigrant backgrounds were on the front line in just the British UK system were the first deaths. Why? Because, you know, people are, you know, out there doing their job, and yet in actual fact we're now being told, well, no, you can't come in this country unless X. Again, what are you on about? How could that even make sense? We are being very political today, David, in some ways, but I would still argue the fact that no, we're not. This is a human response because a system is not geared in kindness.
Absolutely. And I know I can feel that I'm almost reining myself in.
Let it out, David.
Yeah.
It's good to talk, David.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. And that's what we're here to do. But, you know, it is that spotlight on, the broken things, you know, the things that need attention. Yeah.
But what it's also spotlighted as well, actually, is that sense of community. Not in all places, but even within the little hubs within the communities, we actually are checking out for each other. You know, when we see something happen in another country, I for the life of me, I can't remember. I know I got really shirty about it on my LinkedIn page. It was about some police walloping people in the developing world because it was lockdown time with a baton. I mean, it was pretty horrendous. And I'm glad that people felt outraged about that, because the government did a U-turn and said, you know what, that never should have happened. It was, I'm sorry that I can't remember the country, and I was just like, you know, good on you that you stood up and said, I'm really sorry that on my watch that never should have happened. So I think that we have found a different voice. And maybe, you know, because we're using virtual platforms now, and because people are wanting to connect into something, because you don't always want to watch reruns of, well, I always want to watch Billy Connolly, if I'm honest, but, you know, maybe you don't always want to watch reruns of Corrie. You know, you do want something else. So I think that the conversation has changed. So people are watching more things and actually wanting to know, because in that connection of a pandemic, you do want to know what's happening in India, in you know, South America, etc. You do want to know. So it's kind of reaching out a bit more. It's making more of a collective voice.
Well, you know, it is global, and there are no corners left untouched or unscathed by this. And you know, we're not the only two people. We're not in a bubble here. There are many people who must have the same questions and must have the same thoughts and feelings around this. And what can we change? What can we do? And you refer to these pockets, small pockets of people all over the place. I guess either voicing their opinion or seriously thinking about what they can do. I mean, there's your coming together. If only it could be orchestrated.
Do you know what? Because I am quite. I always say to people, when they say, "Oh, you're so optimistic," I say, actually, I'm a pragmatic optimist, which is a whole contradiction in terms, but not from a social science point of view, but just from a very human point of view. I'm actually quite interested in what is going to happen now. And I don't mind adding my voice to what I believe. It's not about should happen, but what actually needs to happen. Let's go back to the hierarchy of needs. Hang on a minute. You cannot go to love, belonging, esteem, and self-actualization if you haven't got safety and your physiological self intact.
No, and that might be at the root of most people's worries. you see endless videos on, developing new skills or learning to do things different, or, learning to play some brilliant, absolutely wonderful. But if you ain't got the bottom line as described by Mr. Maslow, then you're on a non-starter.
Totally on a non-starter. And let's just say a famous person said, oh, you should all read a book and learn a language.
Yeah.
What planet are you living on? When somebody has to really take care of their basic needs, when somebody is homeless, when somebody is living in a slum in India. I was watching something on National Geographic the other day, where, they literally didn't have the food and the running water in the first place. So how the hell can they wash their hands to the level that they need to wash their hands? What are you on about?
Yeah. And what's the point in a recipe book without the ingredients?
Absolutely. And I know when when friends have said to me, like, Aneesh, I'm so tired, what's that about? You're the trauma person. I'm like, because you're traumatized, because literally your body is running around like a little, as I often say, like a little bloody molecular hormonal mass.
Yeah.
You go to sleep. Literally, I want you to sleep, because your body is adjusting to something that is so darn fearful. If you need to go to sleep, go to sleep.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's sort this out on the other side. Don't be worrying now. And and your productivity in your work and etc. 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 Yeah, I personally do meditate, because I do. But I'm not going to say to somebody, well, if you learn meditation, you're going to feel fine.
You'll be fine. Yeah.
No, all I say is, do you know what? What is it that makes you feel good? If it is wrapping yourself up in a blanket and watching Shrek, go and do that.
Do it, yeah.
Because that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
Do you know what? You don't need to unravel, in a therapeutic way. You don't necessarily need to unravel your deepest and darkest. In actual fact, sometimes in therapy, all we're talking about is, what is it right now that can make you feel a bit safer? Just do that. It's probably not very scientific. I mean, I would argue that it is. I could give you lots of reasons.
There's science behind it. Yeah.
There is. But yeah. David, you're getting a glow of light now. We're kind of...
The sun must have come out at the same time where you are too, because I've got the old prison bars going on here.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. So the picture quality, but David, what's really lovely is you haven't frozen, which is probably the first time ever. As ever, we have giggled through this. We've made some, I feel, very pertinent points. If somebody wants to say we're political, you know what? I'll wear the label.
Yeah.
For today.
Yeah, and I wonder. Yeah. I guess sometimes the layer of humour is I'm aware it's a protection for me too.
Billy Connolly says in his book, when we are in, basically, I'm cannibalizing it, but basically, if we are laughing and displaying humor, it's because we are vulnerable.
Yeah.
David, end us on this one today. It's yours.
The end is mine.
Yeah, today. I'll shut up. I'm practicing my northern twang. I'm getting there.
This is David Buckler. You are Aneesh de Vos. It's been a pleasure as always. And I'm sure lots more topics are going to come out of this one. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being here, Aneesh. And we look forward to speaking very soon. Bye.